The sky above New Terra shimmered with twin moons casting pale silver light over the sprawling, floating city, a marvel of gleaming spires and floating platforms where humans and aliens mingled in uneasy harmony. Tonight, the grand gala of the Chals Galactic Union was in full swing, a rare moment when politics softened beneath glittering chandeliers and melodic alien harmonies. Rachel moved through the crowd like a shadow of grace and mystery. Her pale, almost luminescent skin caught the soft lights, while her hair, the color of starlit frost, cascaded like a waterfall of moonlight down her back. Eyes like molten amber scanned the room, calm yet calculating, hiding centuries of wisdom beneath their radiant surface. She had been invited as a dignitary of her homeworld, a proud alien nation long entwined in the fragile peace with humanity. But tonight, Rachel's role was more delicate, navigate the labyrinth of politics, wary alliances, and whispered schemes. Across the ballroom, the human prince Bucky stood tall, a figure of effortless charm and strength. His dark hair was perfectly coiffed, and his deep blue eyes betrayed the weight of expectation pressing on him. Crowned by birthright but shackled by tradition, Bucky's glance met Rachel's, sparking an electric current neither could deny. As the gala's orchestra swelled, their worlds collided. Bucky approached with a confident smile, but Rachel noticed the flicker of uncertainty beneath. The crowd seemed to part for them, yet hostile eyes from the royal entourage watched like hawks. "Rachel," he said softly, voice steady but low enough to keep the moment intimate, "I've heard much about you." "And I of you, Prince Bucky," she replied, her voice a melody both warm and cool. "Stories often hide the truth, don't they?" A subtle tension curled in the air as they exchanged words layered with meaning. Around them, masked smiles and polite nods hid ambitions and warnings. For Rachel, this was not merely a meeting, it was a battlefield of glances and unspoken challenges. Minutes felt like hours as they danced through conversation, each testing the other's defenses. The prince's sincerity battled with his family's pressures, while Rachel's guarded hope clashed with the skepticism born of a lifetime of prejudice. A sudden murmur rippled through the crowd. Eyes darted toward the grand entrance, where a faction of human nobles whispered among themselves, their disapproval unmistakable. They did not want this union, not of blood, not of worlds. Rachel caught the cold glance of one such noble woman, lips curled in thin contempt. Bucky's jaw tightened. "Ignore them," he whispered, but Rachel saw the storm behind his eyes. Their first encounter ended with a promise unspoken, a spark igniting in the shadows of the gala. The collision of their worlds had begun, and with it a journey tangled in love, power, and peril. The grand halls of the royal palace loomed like a fortress of secrets and silent power. Marble pillars stretched toward ceilings veined with shimmering alloys, reflecting the cold glow of artificial stars embedded in the dome above. Here, beneath layers of polished splendor, whispers carried like daggers, and alliances shifted like sand beneath a storm. Prince Bucky sat alone in his private chambers, the weight of the evening's encounter pressing on him. The flickering holograms from his communication console cast faint shadows across his face, shadows that betrayed the turmoil beneath his composed exterior. The memory of Rachel's amber eyes haunted him, a beacon in the darkness of his gilded cage. A soft chime announced the arrival of his most trusted adviser, Lord Kale. The man's sharp features were etched with years of courtly intrigue, his eyes cold and calculating. "Your Highness," Kale began, his voice low and cautious, "the family is unsettled. Your fascination with the alien dignitary is cause for concern. They question your judgment, your loyalty." Bucky's jaw clenched. "Loyalty to tradition or to myself?" Kale's gaze hardened. "The royal line depends on preserving human purity. A union with an alien, no matter how charming or intelligent, threatens that legacy. You must tread carefully." Beyond the palace walls, the city thrummed with life. Citizens from countless worlds mingled in crowded bazaars and gleaming towers, their conversations a mosaic of languages and cultures. Yet beneath the vibrant surface, tension simmered. Old prejudices and new fears fueled underground movements, seeking to exploit the fragile peace. In a shadowed corridor, Rachel stood among her own council, alien diplomats and strategists who regarded her with a mixture of admiration and concern. Her voice, steady and resolute, cut through the murmur. "We cannot afford weakness," she declared. "The humans distrust us. They fear what they do not understand. But Bucky, he is a key. If he chooses to stand with us, the balance can shift." One of her closest allies, a stoic elder named Thane, spoke gravely. "Yet the path is perilous. The royal family will not yield without a fight. Intrigue will seek to divide and destroy." Rachel's gaze sharpened. "Then we must be smarter, swifter. Let them plot in the shadows. We will be the light that exposes their schemes." Back in the palace, the council convened in a hidden chamber bathed in dim red light, a stark contrast to the opulence above. Influential nobles whispered plans of subversion and control, aiming to isolate Rachel and reaffirm human dominance. "Discredit her," one demanded. "Spread rumors of espionage, of betrayal. Let the people question her loyalty," another added. "Bucky must be reminded of his place. His duty is to the crown, not to a foreign queen." The air thickened with the scent of conspiracy, a web weaving tighter with each passing moment. Far from these machinations, Rachel and Bucky's worlds spun toward collision. Their bond, fragile yet unyielding, was the catalyst for upheaval, love entwined with power, hope shadowed by danger. As night deepened over New Terra, the whispers grew louder, and in the darkness the true game began. The morning sun pierced through the translucent dome of the alien embassy, casting iridescent patterns across the polished obsidian floors. Rachel stood before a vast mural depicting the history of her people, a tapestry of stars, wars, and fragile alliances woven through millennia. Each symbol told a story of survival, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of harmony in a universe fraught with conflict. Her fingers traced the ancient glyphs etched into the mural, feeling the weight of generations pressing on her shoulders. To outsiders, she was the enigmatic diplomat, poised, graceful, and unyielding. But beneath her serene exterior lay a storm of memories and a fierce determination forged by centuries of struggle. Her people, the Seraphians, were once scattered across countless worlds, their civilization fractured by war and betrayal. Over time, they forged a fragile unity, becoming custodians of knowledge and peacekeepers in a volatile galaxy. Yet prejudice lingered like a shadow, especially among humans who viewed Seraphians as otherworldly interlopers. Beautiful, but alien, powerful, yet untrusted. Rachel's eyes darkened as she remembered the countless times she'd faced suspicion, hostility, even violence. The subtle sneers, the whispered doubts about her loyalties, the endless political chess that threatened to crumble the alliances her ancestors had built. But she was no victim. She was a survivor, and more than that, a leader, born from fire. A soft voice interrupted her reverie. "Rachel?" She turned to see Thane, the elder diplomat, his expression grave. "The council grows restless," he said. "The humans tighten their grip. The royal court's whispers reach even our ears. They plan to isolate you, to cut the roots that bind you to power." She nodded slowly. "Then we must strengthen those roots, not just among our own, but with those who dare to dream of unity." Thane's eyes flickered with approval. "And what of Prince Bucky? His allegiance wavers." Rachel's gaze hardened. "He is torn between duty and desire, but he understands what is at stake. I must give him a reason to choose, and not just me, but a future where we all belong." As she spoke, her communicator buzzed softly. The message was brief but urgent. Intelligence reports warned of a covert movement rising within the human factions, one intent on sabotaging any union between species. Rachel clenched her fists. The stakes were higher than ever. This was no longer a battle of diplomacy. It was a war for the very soul of their world. She stepped away from the mural, determination blazing in her amber eyes. The past was a foundation. Yes, but the future would be forged by those bold enough to claim it. In this intricate dance of power and prejudice, Rachel vowed to be both queen and warrior, to break the chains of history and light a path for a new era. Outside, the city buzzed unaware, but the tides of change were rising. The sprawling cityscape of New Terra stretched beneath a turbulent sky, its towering spires piercing thick clouds that churned with unnatural energy. The atmosphere crackled, a silent omen whispered by the planet's ancient weather systems, as if the world itself sensed the upheaval on the horizon. Rachel stood atop the embassy's highest balcony, the cold wind teasing strands of her silvery hair. Her pale skin glowed faintly under the stormy twilight, a stark contrast to the darkening sky. Below, the city pulsed with life, millions of beings from countless worlds, their lives intertwined in a delicate balance. But peace was a fragile illusion. Her communicator buzzed urgently. She glanced down to see the emblem of Thane flashing, a summons. The council chamber awaited, where secrets would unravel and loyalties would be tested. As she descended, her thoughts raced. The intelligence she'd received was grim. A faction within the human aristocracy, known only as the Crimson Circle, had begun mobilizing, their objective to thwart any alliance that threatened human supremacy by any means necessary. Inside the council chamber, shadows danced along the polished walls, illuminated only by the glow of holoscreens displaying encrypted messages, surveillance feeds, and the faces of key players, both allies and foes. Thane's voice cut through the tension. We face an enemy unseen but ever present. The Crimson Circle is not merely political, they are radical, ruthless, and well-funded. Their agents infiltrate every level of power. Rachel's amber eyes narrowed. Then we must act before their poison spreads further. A younger diplomat interjected, voice trembling. But how? Open conflict will only invite chaos. The humans will not tolerate interference. Rachel stepped forward, the room falling silent. We do not seek war. We seek survival. Prince Bucky is our bridge. If he stands with us, we have a chance. But time is slipping. Her words hung heavy in the air. Suddenly, the chamber doors hissed open. A messenger burst in, breathless. Your Highness, urgent news. An attempt was made on Bucky's life during today's Senate Assembly. Gasps echoed. Rachel's heart clenched. Is he stable, but shaken? The attackers used advanced alien tech. Traces point to the Crimson Circle. A cold fury ignited. Within her, the game had turned deadly. Determined, Rachel rose. We will not cower. Tonight, we rally our allies. This storm will break only if we face it head-on. As the council scrambled to organize defenses and political maneuvers, Rachel's mind was already forming plans. Intrigue and power struggles intertwined with a battle for hearts and minds. Outside, lightning split the sky. The gathering storm was no longer just weather. It was the portent of a war that would decide the fate of their worlds. Night had fallen over New Terra, cloaking the city in a veil of shadows pierced by neon lights and holographic advertisements that flickered like restless spirits. The storm outside had subsided, but within the palace walls, a far more dangerous tempest brewed. One spun from whispered lies, hidden agendas, and the cold calculus of power. Rachel paced in her private quarters, the weight of recent events pressing heavily upon her. The assassination attempt on Prince Bucky was no mere act of violence, and it was a message, but from whom and to what end? Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. It slid open to reveal Elena, one of Rachel's most trusted aides, her face pale but determined. "Your Highness, you need to see this," Elena said, handing over a small data crystal. "We intercepted communications. The Crimson Circle is planning something bigger, a coup, perhaps, timed with the upcoming planetary summit." Rachel's eyes narrowed as she activated the crystal, revealing encrypted messages and schematics. The scale of the conspiracy was staggering. "They seek to cripple the alliance before it can be forged," Rachel murmured. "And they will. Stop at nothing." A knock echoed again, this time more urgent. Bucky entered, his usually composed demeanor fractured by exhaustion and doubt. "Rachel," he said quietly, "they're tightening the noose. The Council wants me to renounce any ties with you, to preserve the purity of the throne. They don't see what this alliance means." She stepped closer, the fire in her gaze unyielding. "Then they don't understand what's at stake. I won't let them destroy us, or us." Their shared resolve was a fragile beacon amid the gathering darkness. But in the labyrinthine corridors beyond, shadows moved with sinister intent. A figure cloaked in black watched them through hidden lenses, fingers tapping coldly against a holopad. "Let them believe they hold the reins," the figure whispered. "Their downfall will come from within." As the palace became a chessboard of secret meetings and double crosses, Rachel and Bucky realized their greatest enemy was not just the external threat. It was the tangled web of deceit spun by those they once called allies. And in this game of shadows, trust was the most dangerous currency of all. The grand halls of the palace, usually resplendent with light and life, now felt suffocating, haunted by the silence of suspicion. Every glance seemed to carry unspoken accusations. Every whispered word might be the first thread unraveling a fragile alliance. Rachel moved through the marble corridors with the grace of a seasoned diplomat, but beneath the practiced calm, her mind raced with paranoia. The Crimson Circle's reach was far deeper than she had feared. Trusted advisors whispered behind closed doors, loyalties wavered, and hidden eyes watched her every step. She paused outside a heavy steel door, guarded by two sentinels whose cold expressions betrayed nothing. Beyond lay the War Council chamber, where strategy, deception, and power played their relentless game. Inside, Bucky awaited, his posture rigid, eyes shadowed by doubt. "We cannot wait any longer," Rachel said softly, stepping beside him. "The Council fractures. We need decisive action before the palace devours itself." Bucky nodded. The weight of leadership etched into his face. "Agreed. But who do we trust? The enemy is not only outside these walls, but within them." A sudden flicker of movement caught Rachel's eye. A shadow slipping through a nearby archway, disappearing as quickly as it appeared. Her senses sharpened. "Someone watches us." Bucky's hand found hers, a silent pact. "Then we must become ghosts ourselves." The War Council convened under dimmed lights, holographic maps projecting the sprawling city and its vulnerable points. Plans were laid, alliances forged and broken in whispered negotiations. Rachel proposed a bold counter-strike, not with weapons, but with information. "We expose the Crimson Circle's puppeteers," she declared. "We reveal their schemes to the public, turning their own shadows against them." But dissent arose. "That risks civil unrest," a council member warned. "We could lose control." Rachel's amber eyes blazed. Better chaos born from truth than order built on lies. The council fractured, but Rachel's conviction swayed enough voices. The plan was set into motion, yet as they plotted in, the true threat lurked deeper within the palace, an unseen traitor weaving betrayal so subtle that even Rachel's keen gaze might miss it. Later, alone in her chamber, Rachel stared into the blackened sky visible through the dome. The stars shimmered coldly, distant and indifferent. She whispered, I will find you, no matter how deep you hide. A soft chime interrupted her vow, a coded message flashing on her wrist console. The sender was unknown. The message read, "The game is not what it seems. Trust no one. Meet me at the East Wing. Midnight." Her pulse quickened. The dance of shadows had only just begun. The palace, a labyrinth of grandeur and secrets, lay swathed in silence under the cloak of midnight. Its towering spires pierced the ink-black sky, stars flickering faintly above like distant witnesses to the machinations within. But for Rachel, the night held no peace, only the heavy weight of uncertainty and the sharp edge of danger. She moved swiftly through the dimly lit corridors, her footsteps muffled against polished obsidian floors. The East Wing, a seldom-used sector reserved for ceremonial archives and forbidden histories, seemed a fitting place for clandestine meetings. Her heart beat steady yet fierce as she approached a secluded chamber. The door, ancient and wrought, with intricate alien symbols, opened silently at her touch. Inside, the room was bathed in soft violet luminescence, the air thick with the scent of old parchment and ozone. From the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in midnight blue, face concealed beneath a hood. Rachel's sharp amber eyes locked onto them, wary but resolute. "You called, and I came," she said, voice low but steady. The figure stepped forward, revealing a man with piercing gray eyes and a face marked by a jagged scar, a face that whispered of battles fought both in war and in the halls of politics. "I am Cale," he introduced himself, "a reluctant servant to the Crimson Circle. But not all within their ranks share their vision." Rachel's gaze hardened. "Why should I trust you?" Cale's lips curled into a faint, sardonic smile. "Because I want the same as you, to see this city and its people freed from the shadow of oppression. I have information, details of the Circle's plans that will unravel their web." She studied him, every instinct alert. "Speak." He produced a hollow scroll, projecting images of encrypted messages, schematics of palace security breaches, and names of those who conspired in the highest echelons. "The Circle intends to infiltrate the planetary summit with assassins disguised as diplomats," Cale explained. "Their goal to decapitate the leadership, sow chaos, and seize control." Rachel's jaw clenched. "This cannot stand. But if you betray me—" Cale's eyes darkened. "I've already lost much to the Circle's cruelty. This is my chance at redemption." A tense silence settled between them, heavy with risk and possibility. "Very well," Rachel said finally. "We move at dawn. But know this, if you deceive me, the consequences will be unforgiving." Kyle nodded solemnly. As she left the chamber, the weight of their alliance settled like a shadow over her heart. Trust was a fragile thing, but in this Game of Thrones, and treachery, it might be the only weapon left. Outside, the storm clouds gathered once more, lightning flickering faintly on the horizon, nature's warning that the coming days would be fraught with fire. Dawn crept slowly over New Terra, its pale light washing the sprawling metropolis in a fragile glow that belied the turmoil beneath. The city, a dazzling tapestry of chrome and neon, pulsed with life and unspoken fears. At the heart of this restless world stood the palace, monolithic and imperious, a fortress of power and deception. Rachel stood atop the balcony overlooking the vast courtyard, her silhouette sharp against the soft hues of morning. The weight of the night's revelations pressed upon her like a physical burden, yet her amber eyes burned with fierce determination. Today was the day the fate of millions would hang in the balance. Behind her, the War Council convened in the Grand Hall, the air thick with tension. Advisors and generals debated strategies, each voice tinged with urgency and doubt. The summit was only hours away, and the threat of assassination loomed like a knife poised above them all. Kale's intel had turned the tide. They now knew where the assassins would strike, their disguises, their weapons. But how to outmaneuver shadows that moved unseen? Rachel raised her hand, silencing the room. We will not wait for their move. We strike first. Murmurs rippled through the chamber, some doubtful, others resolute. Our plan is simple, Rachel continued. We use their own network against them. Kale will lead a covert team to infiltrate the Circle's cells and dismantle their operation from within. Bucky stepped forward, his voice steady. And I will secure the summit, ensuring the safety of our leaders. The room fractured into teams, orders flowing like lifeblood through the veins of the palace. Every moment was precious, every decision. A gamble? Later, in the shadowed corridors, Rachel prepared for the coming storm. Her mind raced. Questions of loyalty, sacrifice, and survival tangled like thorned vines. A soft chime echoed from her wrist console. A message flashed. Trust is a weapon. Use it wisely. Her gaze hardened. The game was far from over. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, a prelude to the chaos yet to come. The palace doors closed behind her as she stepped into the dawn, a leader forged by fire, ready to face the gathering storm. The day advanced with a deceptive calm. New Terra's gleaming towers reflected the harsh sunlight, but beneath the surface, tension writhed like a coiled serpent. Rachel moved through the palace corridors with measured grace, each step echoing softly against cold stone walls that had witnessed centuries of power plays. The summit's chamber was a cathedral of glass and steel, its transparent walls offering a panoramic view of the city below. Here, diplomats and dignitaries from countless worlds gathered, unaware of the shadows lurking amidst their ranks. Rachel's amber eyes scanned the room, noting every detail, the subtle gestures, the whispered conversations, the calculated smiles. Every face was a mask, every word a potential dagger. Kale's covert team had already infiltrated the Circle's cells, but time was a merciless foe. Reports filtered in, encrypted messages intercepted, suspicious movements traced. But the true identities of the assassins remained elusive. A sudden commotion near the entrance shattered the fragile peace. Rachel's gaze snapped to the source, a cloaked figure slipping through the crowd, eyes cold and unyielding. "Security!" she commanded, voice sharp as a blade. Guards surged forward, but the figure vanished into a hidden passage known only to the palace's inner circle. Rachel's heart pounded, the web of deceit tightened. She exchanged a glance with Bucky, who stood nearby, his expression grim but resolute. "They're closer than we thought." Whispers of betrayal seeped through the palace like poison. Trusted allies grew suspicious. Old rivalries ignited beneath polite facades. In her private chambers, Rachel pored over holographic maps and intercepted transmissions. The patterns began to emerge, a tangled maze of false leads and concealed agendas. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock. Kyle entered, his face grave. "We have a mole, someone feeding information to the Circle from within the council." Rachel's breath caught. The enemy was not just without, they were within. "We must act swiftly," she said, voice steely. "Trust no one but those who stand beside us now." As the summit approached its perilous climax, Rachel steeled herself for the ultimate test, a battle not just for survival, but for the soul of New Terra. Outside, the sky darkened ominously, mirroring the storm gathering in the hearts of those who played the deadly game. The twilight hours cast a somber veil over the palace, its towering spires now shadows against. A bruised sky. Inside the grand hall, tension clung to the air like thick fog, suffocating and relentless. Rachel stood at the center, surrounded by a circle of wary faces, once allies, now suspects. The revelation of a mole had shattered the fragile trust, splintering loyalties and igniting silent suspicion. Whispers floated like ghosts through marble corridors, each word a potential spark to a powder keg. Rachel's amber eyes burned with a fierce resolve as she addressed the council. Betrayal within our ranks threatens all we stand for. Until we root it out, no one leaves this chamber. Murmurs swelled, but no one dared challenge her. Cale stepped forward, voice low, but urgent. "I have traced encrypted transmissions to one among us. The evidence points to Counselor Varen." Gasps erupted. Varen, a man once revered for his wisdom, now stood accused. His pale eyes flickered with a mixture of defiance and fear. "I am innocent," he declared, voice trembling. "This is a plot to undermine the council." Rachel studied him closely, searching for the truth behind his facade. Yet the lines between deception and sincerity blurred like shifting shadows. Outside, the palace security forces mobilized, sealing exits and scanning for any escape attempts. The city beyond seemed oblivious to the crisis unfolding within its heart. The council's fractures deepened. Factions formed quietly in corners. Alliances whispered behind closed doors. Rachel knew the danger was not only from the external enemy, but from the rot eating away at their foundation. Later, in the solitude of her chambers, Rachel allowed herself a rare moment of vulnerability. The weight of leadership pressed heavy. On her shoulders, the knowledge that every choice could mean salvation or ruin. Her reflection in the polished obsidian mirrored a woman forged in fire and betrayal, yet unbroken. The war was no longer just against invaders. It was a battle for the soul of her people, and the stakes had never been higher. The palace, though alive with urgent whispers and guarded glances, held an eerie silence in Rachel's private study. Here, beneath towering shelves of ancient tomes and holographic archives, memories flickered like ghostly phantoms. Tonight, they felt closer than ever. She sat alone, the weight of recent betrayals pressing heavily on her chest. Her fingers traced the delicate carvings of an heirloom pendant, an artifact passed down through generations, a symbol of her people's resilience. It was more than a trinket. It was a reminder of a past shrouded in secrets, sacrifices, and unspoken pain. The door slid open silently. Cale stepped in, his expression unreadable, yet tinged with the same exhaustion that gripped her. "You look haunted," he observed quietly. Rachel offered a faint smile. "Haunted by history, and by choices I never wanted to make." Kyle moved closer, voice low. "We all carry burdens, Rachel, but sometimes the past holds the key to the future." She nodded, reaching for a holographic projection. Images of long-forgotten wars, ancient treaties, and lost alliances shimmered in the air. "The Crimson Circle's roots run deeper than we realized," Rachel said. "Their power was forged in blood and shadow, tied to betrayals within our own ancestors." Cale's eyes narrowed. "Then perhaps understanding those echoes will reveal their weaknesses." They pored over the archives, uncovering a tapestry of conspiracies and alliances that spanned centuries. Each revelation was a thread, weaving a complex pattern of power and deception. Suddenly, an encrypted message interrupted their research, a warning from an unknown source. "The enemy knows you seek the truth. Beware the shadows that walk among you." Rachel's jaw tightened. The walls closed in, but her resolve only hardened. "We are running out of time," she murmured. "The past is bleeding into the present, and if we don't act, it will consume us all." Cale's gaze met hers, fierce and unwavering. "Then we fight, not just for survival, but for the legacy we choose to leave behind." As the night deepened, two warriors, bound by trust, burdened by secrets, prepared to face the darkness together. The echoes of the past had awakened, and with them, a storm that would change everything. The grand hall was bathed in the cold glow of artificial sunlight, a stark contrast to the shadows that crept relentlessly within its walls. Rachel moved deliberately through the crowd, each step echoing like a drumbeat of war. faces blurred. Past, some allies, some foes hidden behind masks of civility. Despite the dazzling technology that adorned New Terra, human and alien alike could not escape the primordial dance of power and deception. Every glance held a secret. Every whispered word was a thread in a vast web of intrigue. Rachel's eyes, fierce and calculating, sought out familiar figures, her council, her generals, those she could trust. Yet doubt gnawed at her resolve. The mole's betrayal had fractured the fragile unity she had fought so hard to build. Kale's voice crackled softly through her comlink. Movement detected near the eastern wing. Possible breach. She tightened her grip on the communicator, heart racing. Assemble the guards. No one leaves without clearance. The palace's security protocols kicked into high gear. Mechanical sentinels emerged from hidden alcoves, scanning faces and weapons with ruthless precision. The air grew thick with tension. Suddenly, a hush fell. From the shadows emerged a figure, slender, cloaked, eyes glinting with cold intent. It was Varen, the accused counselor, his expression unreadable. "I come with a warning," he declared, voice steady despite the flashing scrutiny around him. "The Circle's reach extends beyond what you imagined. Their allies have infiltrated even the highest ranks." Rachel stepped forward, eyes locked on him. "Then why should we trust you now?" Varen's gaze flickered, revealing a flicker of desperation. "Because I am no traitor. I seek redemption, and to stop a war that will consume us all." Whispers erupted, disbelief and suspicion mingling like a rising tide. Kale's comm link buzzed again. Multiple breaches reported. The Circle moves to strike. Rachel's mind raced. The palace was a battlefield, not just of weapons, but of wills and whispers. With a steely resolve, she raised her voice. "Today, the true enemy reveals itself. Stand with me or fall divided." The room surged with a renewed energy, fear, anger, and determination igniting the hearts of all present. Outside, storm clouds gathered, lightning fracturing the sky as if the heavens themselves mirrored the chaos below. Rachel knew the battle was no longer distant. It was here, and only those united could hope to survive. The palace was no longer a sanctuary. The once gleaming corridors now echoed with the thunder of boots, the clang of weapons, and the distant hum of energy shields, straining against relentless assault. Outside, the skies roiled with unnatural storms, as if the planet itself responded to the chaos within. Rachel stood atop the balcony, overlooking the sprawling city of New Terra. Her pale face was framed by the soft glow of emergency lights, her eyes scanning the horizon, where enemy ships darkened the sky like vultures circling a wounded beast. Behind her, the War Council gathered in tense silence. Kyle, steadfast as ever, reported gravely, "The Circle's forces have breached the outer defenses. Our reinforcements are delayed. We must hold the inner sanctum at all costs." Rachel's voice was calm but resolute. "Then we will show them that New Terra is not so easily conquered." The council dispersed to their duties, and Rachel descended into the heart of the palace, a labyrinth of ancient halls and secret chambers that had sheltered generations of rulers. Here, amidst the shadows and echoes of history, she prepared for the fight, not just for her people, but for the fragile hope that remained. As the first waves of invaders surged through the gates, Rachel's strategic mind sparked into life. Each move she made was a calculated gamble, sending troops to choke points, deploying drones to disrupt enemy communications, and personally leading a small strike team to seal a critical breach. But the battle was not only physical. Within the palace, whispers of betrayal festered, trusted aides vanished, communications were sabotaged, and the sense of paranoia deepened like a dark stain. Rachel's thoughts flickered to the mole, the traitor whose identity remained a mystery, but whose shadow loomed over every decision. She knew the enemy was not just outside, but lurking within the very walls she fought to defend. Mid-battle, A message arrived, encrypted and urgent. "Meet me in the lower archives. I have information that could change everything." With no time to lose, Rachel slipped through hidden passages, heart pounding, mind racing. In the dim light of the archives, a cloaked figure awaited, a former enemy turned uneasy ally, eyes shining with reluctant truth. "The Circle's plans run deeper than you know," the figure whispered. "Their aim is not just conquest, but annihilation of the entire ruling lineage. Your survival is a threat to them." Rachel's breath caught. The siege was more than a war. It was a calculated purge. Steeling herself, she made a silent vow. She would fight, not only with blades and strategy, but with every ounce of cunning and will she possessed. The siege was far from over, and the price of failure was unthinkable. Outside, the storm raged on, lightning illuminating a war-torn sky. Inside, Rachel prepared to face the darkness that sought to consume her world. The dim light of the archives flickered as Rachel and the cloaked informant moved swiftly through the maze of forgotten knowledge. The air was thick with dust and secrets, as if the very walls whispered of betrayals past. Every step echoed like a heartbeat in the silence, heightening the tension that wrapped around Rachel like a shroud. The informant paused before a concealed door, fingers dancing across an ancient console. The door hissed open, revealing a chamber filled with glowing holodisks and cryptic data streams. Here lay the hidden truth, the threads of deception woven by the Crimson Circle, and worse, the traces of traitors within Rachel's own court. Rachel's eyes scanned the holodisks, each revealing carefully erased records, falsified communications, and covert meetings. The web was vast, tangled, and suffocating. "Your enemies are not just outside these walls," the informant said quietly. "They wear faces you trust, speak words you cherish, and smile with your own name on their lips." Rachel's heart pounded. Every alliance she had forged, every promise she had made, was now suspect. The crushing weight of betrayal pressed down, but beneath it a fierce determination ignited. "We expose them," she said firmly. "We tear apart their lies and rebuild from the ashes." Suddenly, a sharp alarm shattered the silence. The palace's security systems had detected an unauthorized breach. Someone was coming. "Time is against us," the informant warned. "You must choose your allies carefully. Trust is a weapon as dangerous as any sword." Rachel grabbed a data shard containing the incriminating evidence and slipped it into her pocket. As they slipped away from the archives, shadows shifted, and footsteps echoed closer. The hunt had begun, not just for survival, but for the soul of New Terra itself. Outside, distant explosions punctuated the storm's fury. Inside, Rachel's resolve hardened. In this war of shadows, only the cunning would prevail. The grand chamber, once a symbol of unity and power, now stood fractured, its ornate walls scarred by conflict and betrayal. Rachel entered with measured steps, the data shard burning a cold weight in her pocket. Her mind was a whirlwind of suspicion and strategy, each heartbeat echoing like a drumbeat of impending revelation. Around her, courtiers and generals whispered behind veils of false loyalty, their eyes darting like cornered prey. Among them, the traitor lurked, hidden in plain sight, wearing a mask of friendship and duty. Rachel's gaze swept the room, sharp and unyielding. She summoned Cale, her most trusted lieutenant, who arrived silently, his expression grim but unwavering. "The time has come," Rachel declared, voice steady but charged. "Tonight, the truth will unravel." With a flick of her wrist, the data shard was activated, projecting a cascade of images and recordings into the center of the chamber. The gathered crowd gasped as secret meetings, coded messages, and betrayals were laid bare. Faces paled, alliances shattered. The traitor's mask slipped, revealing cold eyes filled with desperation and rage. Lord Darien, once a pillar of their council, now exposed as the architect of the siege. Darien's voice cut through the chaos, venomous and defiant. "You think this ends here? The circle's reach is infinite. You cannot stop what has already begun. But Rachel, unwavering, stepped forward, her presence a beacon in the storm. Your web of lies is broken. The people see you now. Guards moved swiftly, seizing Darian as murmurs of betrayal echoed like thunder. Yet, as he was dragged away, a chilling smile played on his lips, promising that the war was far from over. Rachel turned to her allies, voice resolute. This battle tested us, but our true fight lies ahead. We rebuild stronger and united, for New Terra, for the future. Outside, the storm began to subside, dawn's first light piercing through shattered skies, a fragile hope born from the darkness of deceit. The first light of dawn spilled across New Terra's battered skyline, casting long shadows over a city, scarred by war, but unbowed. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and renewal, a paradox that mirrored Rachel's own tumultuous journey. In the war room, beneath the shattered dome of the palace, Rachel stood before a council of allies and survivors. Her pale face was illuminated by the soft glow of holographic maps, each detail a testament to hard-won victories and the price they demanded. The room buzzed with cautious hope, yet Rachel knew the true battle was only beginning. New Terra survives, she began, voice steady and commanding, but survival is not enough. We must forge a future where shadows cannot breed betrayal, and where all who call this world home are truly united. She turned to Cale, her steadfast lieutenant, who nodded in solemn agreement. We will rebuild the defenses, root out the last remnants of the circle, and heal the fractures within our society. Outside, the city stirred to life. Citizens emerged from shelters and barricades, faces weary but determined. Children's laughter, tentative yet real, echoed in the streets. Somewhere above, the skies cleared, revealing stars that had watched silently through the darkness. Rachel's gaze lifted to the horizon. The cost had been immense. Friends lost, alliances shattered, her own heart tested, but a new dawn was breaking. As she walked the ruined halls of her palace, memories flickered of battles fought, of trust earned and broken, and of the fragile hope that had carried her through. She paused before a towering window, watching the sun's golden rays ignite the city's towers. In that moment, Rachel understood that true power was not in crowns or armies, but in resilience and the courage to dream beyond the shadows. The siege was over. The empire was reborn, and Rachel, the pale warrior queen, would lead it into a future forged by light.